In the United States, an executive order was made to dismantle DEI programs within federal government and encourage private sectors to end these initiatives. I'm a game developer and I want to share my insights on DEI in the game industry. First, I want to go over an article that covers diversity data collected by GDC. After that, I want to share my experience with the DEIB initiative at one of the companies I was working at. For those of you new here, my name is Mustafa. I am the solo developer of the indie studio that I founded, Suburb Path. In the past, I've worked at Treyarch during the development of Black Ops 4, and I've worked at Zwift, which is an indoor cycling game. Right now, I develop and publish small games on Steam, such as Nexus Defenders, which is a narrative-driven tower defense game, and Beware Tomorrow, which is currently in development, a first-person stealth horror game. So first I want to go over this article real quick that was published by thegamer.com very recently. They're announcing survey data that GDC, Game Developers Conference, has compiled. The main takeaways of this article are that males made 75% of developers in 2020 within the game industry, and in 2024 it dropped down to 66%. But 33% are women plus non-binary. This article also states that around 1/4 of game developers identify as LGBT+. Another point that it focuses on is that 43%, so very close to 50%, of all game developers between age 18 and 24, so Gen Z who are just coming straight out of college, identify as LGBT+. The point that this article brings up about women and non-binary people making 32% of the game industry, I don't want to analyze this number, because once they clumped non-binary with women, the number means nothing. The term non-binary means nothing. It's just like that career fair that happened a couple years ago that was supposed to be for women and non-binary people, and then a bunch of men showed up stating that they are non-binary, so they were allowed in. So the term non-binary means absolutely nothing. You just state it and you are. With the fact that they are clumping non-binary with women, that also means that they are including trans women. It's 32% of women plus men who want to state that there's something other than a man. So this statistic, it means nothing. I'm just going to move on. So the biggest two statistics within this article to point at are these two right here, that 24% of game developers identify as LGBT+, and then 43% age 18 to 24 identify that as well. The main point that we can tie with this is when we look at how many people identify as that in total in the United States. They make up 7.2% of the United States, but yet they make up 24%, almost a quarter of the entire gaming industry. Nearly 20%, around a fifth of Gen Z identify as this, but almost half of game developers who are within Gen Z identify as this. So what you're telling me, if you take the 10 of the best and brightest game developers who are Gen Z, 6 of them are straight and 4 of them are LGBT+. I don't buy that. I feel like that this clearly indicates that these numbers are manufactured due to the hiring processes checking off boxes. And they're checking off very specific boxes. Someone's race and who they sleep with have nothing to do with whether they should qualify for the job or not. In fact, these statistics and also the fact that the gamer is celebrating this article as if it's a good thing proves that this is an agenda that they've been trying to push. But then once you point out that it's an agenda, they say, what agenda? There is no agenda. We're just trying to get representation and equality. We want fair opportunities for all game developers. If it's fair, then how come 7% of the population are getting a better chance into the game industry than the other 93%? The final point that I want to cover about this article is that a lot of people are saying this is proof that's not merit-based. Yes, I agree. I'm probably going to be one of the few people that you'll find on here that's going to have a differing opinion. I do agree merit is important. The person's achievements, their skills, their work history, yes, it is very important. But I don't believe that merit is the only factor that is important when hiring somebody. I do believe in hiring based on team synergy, hiring based on rapport, relationship-based hiring. For example, one of my former coworkers, we've worked together for a really long time. If I have an opening on my team and my former coworker has the basic skills for that opening, I would offer him that opening because I know we both work really well together. We have a history together. We've worked well together. I know that he's a hard worker. He might not be the most skilled person. He might not have the best technical skills, but I know we have good synergy. I know he's a trustworthy person. And also, I believe that showing the potential to learn skills is also important. So while someone might not have the best merit on paper, I don't think merit is always the most important thing. Again, I'm not saying merit is worthless. I'm not saying it is not important. I'm just saying it's not always the most important thing. I joined Zwift back in 2019, and they're an indoor cycling company. Shortly after I joined, they started the DEIB initiative, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. After the 2020 lockdown started and we were all sent to work from home, we were assigned to start taking these DEIB courses. And these courses were mandatory. This was one course that would educate us about our internal bias. For example, if we're hiring somebody and the person looks like us, we might be more lenient towards them. But if the person looks a little different, we might be a little bit more strict with the requirements for the position, and we might not hire them for that. And I can't remember if it was this specific course or if it was another course. I recall one of them that I had to watch, which was about the platinum rule. Now, we know the golden rule. The golden rule is to treat others how we want to be treated. And I believe in that rule. Treat people with respect to a degree. Now, the platinum rule, on the other hand, is treat people how they want to be treated. So in this video, we were taught that we're supposed to introduce ourselves with our pronouns and then ask the person, hey, what do you want to be called? What are your preferred pronouns? How do you want to be treated? These videos are very frustrating to watch because it is social reprogramming. It is teaching us to act in a different way that is not the norm in our culture or any culture. Aside from having these LinkedIn learning courses, we also had these Zoom webinars with the DEIB department. One of these webinars was very lazy. They pulled up this video from YouTube and started playing it. 5 tips on being a better ally. Before I realized these webinars were not mandatory, I was attending these webinars because I thought I was supposed to. One of the earlier webinars, the topic was know your privilege. It was for us to understand that our coworkers might not have lived as privileged of a life as we have. This webinar literally promoted prejudice. By default, when I look at my coworkers, I assume they are just as educated as me, maybe even more educated depending on their position. And whatever challenges in life they had, it shouldn't matter because everybody has challenges in their life. As a Muslim, I believe that every single person is tested and challenged. We all have tests and challenges that vary according to our capability. Some people's challenges are more difficult than others, but the reason why those people's challenges are more difficult is because those people are stronger and are capable of taking on those challenges. The larger the challenge, the more we grow once we get through those challenges. And that's what I believe in. I should not look at my coworker and say, okay, this guy's black, he must be uneducated, and he grew up in the ghetto. That is literally racist for me to look down on him and think that. Victim Olympics is not a productive conversation to have. I'm Arab. The FBI tapped my phone in the early 2000s. Patriot Act. I had it rough. Victim Olympics and trying to see who had it worse is not a productive conversation. So whichever end it is, whether it is to make myself feel higher and mighty than other people and look down at those who have it worse than me, that itself is racist. but then the other way around, get myself on the bottom of the totem pole. That's a victim mentality, and that's a terrible mindset to embrace. So both ends of the spectrum are terrible. We all have challenges, but at the same time, we all have things that we can be grateful for. What was very bizarre about this Know Your Privilege webinar, some of the employees were so brainwashed that they wanted to sacrifice themselves in front of the altar. There was a good number of people who raised their hand on Zoom, then they got the chance to speak, and then they started saying, I understand I'm privileged in this and privileged in that, and they were basically spilling their white guilt. Like I said before, this promotes the mentality of racism to make them think that they are better than other people. No one is born better than anybody else. Finally, I want to cover the DEIB department's initiative to gaslight us on transgenderism. Let me explain the Zwift game real quick. Zwift is an indoor cycling game. One aspect of the game is the experience points and the unlock system. You gain experience points according to the distance. You can use those experience points to unlock things from the store, such as different bikes and accessories for your character. With that said, whether you choose a male or female avatar, the amount of experience points you gain is different. The developers took an account for the fact that women ride less distance than men. This is because, on average, women, they have less power and cadence, meaning they ride slower than men. And because they ride slower, within the same time frame, they don't ride as far. To make it more enticing for women, women have an experience point boost to make up for their lack of power. In addition to women having an experience points boost, there are also different online events such as races for people to join. There are also some races that are exclusive for women. So with that said, the game acknowledges there's a biological difference between men and women. That's why there are exclusive races for women, and that's why women gain experience points faster than men to make up for their lack of speed and inability to ride as far. Even though the game acknowledges these differences, therefore the company acknowledges these differences, the company also tried to gaslight us that there is no difference between a woman and a trans woman. I can't recall who this guest speaker was, but they brought in a guest speaker from a third-party organization. And at the end of this webinar, she was taking, I recall one employee asking if there is any sort of physical advantage for a trans woman to compete in women's sports. This guest speaker, she straight up said that there's lots of misinformation being spread about the advantages of trans women competing against women and that there are no differences. This is just a flat out lie. So in 2018 in Connecticut, there was these two high school teenagers who competed in the girls' track and field. And these two transgender teenagers, Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood, they both blew away the competition and broke all the girls' records for the 100-meter dash. This was a pretty big thing in the news at the time. I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Terry or Andrea. I think it was Andrea, but Andrea was asked to be a guest speaker with our company in 2020 to talk about transgender rights in sports. I didn't attend this webinar at all, so I don't know how it went. But again, the company acknowledges that there's a biological difference between men and women, but then brings on individuals like Andrea over here to promote transgender individuals to compete against women. Imagine a world where a company hires a full-time pest control associate for their company. This person's job is to make sure that all the pests, whether bugs, rodents, whatever, all the pests have to be cleared out of the building. And the moment that the person no longer has work to do, the company will have to let go of this position and lay off the full-time pest control associate. It's in that pest control associate's best interest to keep their job. So are they going to get rid of all the pests? No, they're going to keep some pests. In fact, they might even add more pests into the building so that they keep getting work. This is what DEI is like. DEI is a scam. They need hatred to exist for their job to be stable. If a company has an issue with discrimination, they would bring in an expert, like do a little bit of training, then the expert moves on and leaves. Just like pest control. Pest control comes in, does their job, goes out. But that's not how it is. DEI is a permanent position. For their position to stay relevant, they need people to be riled up and divided. And that's what DEI does. It promotes prejudice. They want people to look at someone of different race and have prejudices of that person. They want sexual identity to be important so that it becomes a qualifier for hiring practices. This is a small bit of my experience with DEI. Honestly, this was a very frustrating video for me to record. It's actually very frustrating for me to recall these experiences, but I feel like it's important for me to share this experience. Most people who work in the game industry and who go through these DEI or DEIB trainings, they don't speak out about it. And I think it's important to speak out because it promotes racism. It promotes looking down upon people. It promotes victim mindset. It promotes victim Olympics. It's a scam. And I really hope that it gets eradicated from the gaming industry. Anyways, if you got this far, I appreciate you, and it would help the algorithm if you give the video a thumbs up. If you didn't like anything that I said, give it a thumbs down as well. Tell me in the comments section below, do you have any experience with DEI initiatives at any company that you worked at? I want to hear about it. Don't forget to hit the bell so you can get notifications on when I release a new video. And I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. This is a platform for me to talk about my opinions, my insights, and my experiences on the game industry, as well talk about game design, character design, storytelling, and also it's a platform for me to share about my projects that I'm working on. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Salam.